Hi, it's Paul here from SET English. Okay, good to see you again. I'm doing a live stream today and I'm going to be talking all about vocabulary. Okay, no, it's not a dirty word, vocabulary. I think a lot of people struggle with vocabulary, especially in reading and listening. But it's something which we should treat as a skill. It's something which can get better. Okay, it's not impossible, even though English is a huge language. You can learn a lot of vocabulary which can really help you in OET. And the good thing is that the more vocabulary you learn, the better you are to deal with vocabulary that you don't yet know. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit today about what kind of vocabulary we need, where we can find it, how we can record it, and how we can review it. Okay, so just some general advice about some of those things. So great. I don't know if we've got anyone watching live at the moment. I'll go and check. I think we've got a few people watching. If you are watching, please put your name in. Let me know where you're from, and I'll give you a shout out, and maybe you can give us some of your advice as well. So please let me know. All right, okay, so let's go and look at our study document like we do in all SET English classes. We switch to a study document and we build it in front of our students with our students' help. Okay, and then these form the basis of study documents that are available in the evening and with our recorded classes. So let's have a look at this then. Okay, so what kind of vocabulary do I need in OET? That's a really good question, because I think a lot of people assume that OET is all about medicine, all about medication and that kind of thing. And people get a bit worried, oh, I haven't been in the industry for a while, I haven't worked for a couple of years, or I'm a doctor, but I've been working as a carer, so I'm not familiar with what's happening in the UK. Well, there's good news and bad news there. You don't have to have a brilliant technical vocabulary to be good at OET. Okay, it's definitely more on the general side. However, it does help. Obviously, the more vocabulary you have, the better. But in terms of the kind of vocabulary that you need, yes, we do need formal medical vocabulary. Last week we were doing a writing task, and it was an urgent cholecystectomy. Okay, so, cholecystectomy, yeah, sorry, my spelling's not very good. So it does help to know what one of those is, but quite often in the writing tasks, they end up in brackets telling you what it is. Removal of gallbladder, for instance. Yeah, so yeah, it does help to have this kind of information, but I would say something that's actually trickier, especially in listening part A, would be informal medical vocabulary. Now, the example that I often use for this one is a word that you might know or you might not know. Okay, hi Siham, hi Ola, good to see you. Hi. A word that you might not know or you might know, depending on your exposure to English. It's not technically a medical word that gets used a lot. I'm thinking of the word dimple. Dimple. Or the word knuckle. Now, I'm not sure that there is a technical word for the word dimple, but there is for knuckle. Okay? Now, if you think, how do I spell those words? Well, dimple is an easier word to spell because it sounds like another word that we know. It sounds like simple, just with a D on it. So dimple is there. But what about knuckle? Well, that's a silent K. That's a hard one, isn't it? So these are the kinds of phrases that come up in listening part A. Okay, so informal medical vocabulary plus formal medical vocabulary, definitely two things that it does help you to be aware of, but I wouldn't be too don't be too focused on the formal medical vocabulary. You probably already have enough All right. Okay. What other kind of vocabulary? Well, I would say things like conditions, symptoms, and descriptions of these. That's definitely something that we need. Equipment and procedures. I'm just lumping these together. I'm just putting them together. How about this one? Descriptions of emotions, expectations, plans. And these are just a few, just to give you a feeling of the kind of thing that you need to be able to understand when people explain. Okay. So, for instance, looking forward to. Okay, I'm planning to do something. Okay, by next year I was hoping to have achieved. Okay, it's not just long words that we're talking about here in OET, but there is also a very healthy amount of general academic vocab. I'm going to say academic style vocabulary, because in English we use a combination of long and short words all the time, just like we use long and short sentences. Okay, now sometimes those words are academic style words and sometimes they're not. But I'm just going to show you now. I'm just going to give you 5 phrases or words. For this class, I just picked a Part C text at random, chose a paragraph at random. And these are the words that I saw in the first 3 sentences of a random paragraph. Pioneered, devastating, lethal, coined the term, and phenomenon. Yeah, okay. Now, that was just a random paragraph, the first 3 sentences. So don't be focusing too much on this formal medical vocabulary. You have enough already. All right? This stuff, though, if you don't know these words, you can't understand the Part C texts. And if you can't understand the Part C texts, then your chances of getting the Part C questions correct is much lower, is much reduced. So these are just a few examples of some of the kind of vocabulary that you need. And CM is saying Part A was Part A was hard and fast audio, because of which I failed by 2 questions. Oh, 2 questions, yeah. Maybe there was a bit of a spelling issue there as well, Siham, possibly. I don't know. Okay, so in terms of the kind of vocabulary you need to keep your mind open. Yes, there are medical things and healthcare based things, but there are also general things, and this is where people struggle more in OET. Not the medical stuff. Most of you know that stuff. It's this general academic style vocabulary that makes Part C so difficult. Okay, so where can we find it? All right. This is a good question and quite an easy one for me to answer. So where can we find vocabulary? How about everywhere? You can find vocabulary everywhere. Now, what type of vocabulary? Well, that's different. If you're looking for specific types of vocabulary, well, you can find all of this kind of stuff. You can find that. So medical related. There are loads of different places you can find that. So you can find it in healthcare. Sorry, my typing is not as good as my spelling. Healthcare documentaries. Healthcare dramas. Okay, there are loads of different ones. So think of something like healthcare documentaries, 24 hours in A&E. I watched a really good one. It was called something like Surgeons on the Edge of Life the other day, which was really interesting, and it shows you really good surgery and how people talk in operating theatres. You've got GPs behind closed doors, and I am sure that if you go onto YouTube and put health documentary or hospital documentary, you'll find many more. And you'll probably be able to find them from America, from Australia and the UK. I've just thought of another one, Dr. Pimple Popper. I don't know if you've heard of that. So you find loads of different accents here. Okay, not just UK accents, but accents from around the world. Health dramas. Okay, I'm thinking in the UK, you've got Holby City, you've got Casualty. In America, you've got House and ER. Was there another one as well? What's Grey's Anatomy? These are all useful, all helpful. You'll learn how people communicate with each other in healthcare environments. You'll also learn some good medical stuff. In terms of House, every episode is really, really technical. There's loads of technical tests, equipment, blood test results and findings and possible symptoms, and loads of consultations. Okay, so general vocabulary. Okay, newspapers. That's a really good one. Newspapers. Okay, podcasts. I like true crime podcasts and history podcasts. Loads of vocabulary there. There's a really good website called Breaking News English that we often recommend. That's got news articles from today or from recently. Every day it's updated and you can look at different levels. There's loads of different vocabulary tests there as well. And of course, OET mock tests. Loads of vocabulary there. All right. So there's no excuse. Vocabulary is everywhere. All right. So next point that I want to make. Okay. How should I record it? Okay. How should I record it? Well, I suppose this is the good. We're getting into the really good stuff now. There is no substitute for writing a word in a book in terms of remembering it. There's just no substitute. Write it down and you'll think about it more. If it's written down, you'll see it again. If you don't, if you just think, oh, that's an interesting word, and just try and remember it, then you won't recall it. Okay, you might recognize it if you see it again, but we're not talking about just recognizing. Recognizing is not enough. We need to be able to recall it. Okay, we need to bring it up whenever we need it. Secondly, don't just write it. Don't just write the word. Okay, write synonyms. Definition. Yeah, definition, synonyms, usage, and possibly even word formation. Okay, can you make a noun or an adjective or a verb from this word? All right, these are important things to do. You might think, oh, this is a lot of work. I'm not doing this. Okay, don't do it. But if you don't do it, then your vocabulary won't improve. The people who do better in reading have got better vocabulary. Okay, so don't miss an opportunity to do it better. You learn a new word, find out the definition for it, find out any synonyms for it, do some usage. You could even do antonyms as well. What are the opposites of this word? These are just suggestions from me. If you don't do it, that's fine. Okay, you might still pass OET. Maybe it will take you 3 or 4 attempts to pass it and cost you over £1,000. Okay, in failed attempts. And maybe in all of those attempts and all of that work that you do, you'll pick up your vocabulary. But if you start like this, if you approach your vocabulary like this from the beginning, then you'll have a much better chance of recalling, remembering, recognizing when it comes to things like scanning. And how do I review it? Okay, Well, if you've got vocabulary lists, ask colleagues to test you. If you've got native speaker colleagues, that would be even better. Okay, ask colleagues, friends, family. Okay, ask them to take your lists. Okay, use lists and challenge on spelling, which mine hasn't been very good today, but okay, challenge on spelling, meaning, usage. And when we say usage, use in a different sentence to the one you already know. You know, if you did write a sentence, ask someone to say, look, choose 10 words and I'll tell you how to spell them. I'll tell you what they mean and I'll give you a sentence for each one. And that person can say yes or no. This is a really good way of reviewing your vocabulary. Another way to review your vocabulary is to watch movies that you know well. Okay. Don't be distracted by the storyline. Okay. When we watch films that we don't know well, or TV programs that we don't know well, then what happens is that we start following the story instead. But if you know the story already, don't be distracted by the storyline. Instead, watch a scene and try and pick out the vocabulary. Okay, then rewatch with the subtitles, the words at the bottom. Okay, same with podcasts. Listen for 5 minutes and check the transcript. This is how you can review your vocabulary. All right, so I hope that this is useful. I don't know if you think about this already, but I'm giving you my honest opinion about the problems that people have in OET. Okay, the problems people have is that they struggle in reading Part C. And a big part of struggling in reading Part C and listening Part C is vocabulary. Now, in our school, every week on a Monday, we present vocabulary. Okay, and on a Monday, we'll put in maybe 20 to 30 words, and the students will then be able to recognize them and see what they mean in the text. But in the exam, no one's going to prep the vocab for you. You need to do that work before. Vocabulary and grammar are things that you can fix and you can prepare before the exam. And there's no way that it will be a waste of time. It will always be beneficial to practice those things. Always. If your vocabulary and your grammar improve, everything improves in OET. So don't underestimate it. Don't undervalue it. Don't neglect it. Okay. If you want more help on vocabulary, if you want to review vocabulary in a live classroom setting with teachers like me, come and find us at SET English. You can find us here on Facebook easily. We'd love to see you. Okay. We'd love to give you a hand prepping for your next OET test. All right. Okay. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.